Do 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 do. Shoo! I've been in the cabin in the woods all day today, making a bed frame for my bed. I built it myself. Isn't that special? You know, I talked about this about a month ago. I'm 95% certain what Fujifilm's next medium format camera is going to be. And by the way, no camera company introduces other cameras that substantially and directly cannibalize what they already have that's on the sales floor, so to say. Anyway, let's first dispel all the stuff that people are talking about. People are saying, oh God, I hope it's a medium format camera with an XTrans sensor. It's never, ever going to happen. Absolutely never. Regular camera sensors cost a fortune for development. There is never going to be a medium format XTrans sensor. It's not going to happen. Fujifilm on medium format sensors have always used pre-existing sensors from Sony. That's not, well, something could change. No, it's not. It's not going to change at all. It's not going to be an XTrans sensor. People are hoping that they're going to stick the IMX, was it the IMX 461 conventional sensor? It was also in the current Gfx 100, which I have. They're going to stick that 100 megapixel sensor in a Gfx 50R. It's also not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That sensor is extremely expensive. The current sensor in the Gfx 50S and 50R, which has been around for a really long time, including the Pentax 645Z, you know the GFX 50R currently is $3,500. My favorite camera of all time, literally. It's not going to happen. Fujifilm is not going to cannibalize their current GFX 100. It's not actually been out for all that long. Yeah, it's still a really hot seller. If you think that the medium format camera that Fujifilm is going to come out with in January through March, or announced then, is going to be the same sensor in a 50S, or keep dreaming. They're not going to stick that. They're not going to cannibalize what they already have. However, there is another option. The IMX 461 monochrome. So it can't be an XTrans sensor. There is a very slim chance, however, it's extremely unlikely. It's extremely unlikely for several substantial reasons that they would actually stick a IMX 461 monochromatic sensor, which has been around now for, what, a year and a half, in the GFX 100 body. It's not going to happen. The people that actually want the 50R camera are the same people that spend $6,000 to $8,000 on a Leica M monochrome. They're still, the people that want that camera are the people that, you know, never fronted the money for the GFX 100 to begin with. They're not going to front it for a GFX 100 monochrome. You might be one of the few that would do that, but that would be an insanely obnoxious, illogical, insane. It's not going to happen. So they're not going to stick that IMX 461 sensor in the GFX 100 body. It's not going to happen. Here's what I'm 95% certain that they're going to do. 95% certain, based on facts, logic, and wisdom. As an owner of all the GFX cameras, I don't own the 50S anymore because I just don't need 3 GFX cameras. They're going to stick the IMX 461 monochrome, which has been out now for some time. They made some sort of bulk purchase on X number of thousands of those. They've already miniaturized the IBIS mech that they stuck in the SX10, which is going to be announced on October the 15th. They've also, too, gotten down the power requirements. However, even one GFX battery will power the IBIS mech and the sensor on the GFX 100. So it's not a power issue on any of the GFX cameras. What they're going to do is miniaturize, because there's actually a lot of room. I don't know if you've seen the inside of a GFX 50R, but there's a substantial amount of room in there. There's plenty enough room for an IBIS mech, believe it or not. Yes, there is. Well, everybody that picks up a GFX 50R, if you have one, is like, man, this camera's a lot more lightweight than I thought. Yeah, there's a substantial amount of dead space in there. 95% certain, okay, this is what Fujifilm is going to do. 95%. It's pretty high. They're going to take the IMX 461 monochromatic sensor with the pared down IBIS mech that they've, you know, reinvented, shall we say, with lower power requirements too. Not that power requirements is an issue at all with the GFX battery or any GFX camera. So it's going to be IBIS mech and the IMX 461 monochrome in the GFX 50R body. Why not the 50S? Because the monochromatic sensor is a street, candid. It's also too for travel photography. The GFX 50S, even though I love it to death, is not an ideal camera for street. It's not an ideal camera for travel photography. That's why it's going to go in the 50R body. There could be some slight design changes on the ergonomics of the 50R that could give it a deeper grip, because the current iteration of the GFX 50R really does require a hand strap because it's a brick and there's not a lot to hold on to, but it's still my favorite digital camera of all time. So they might stick a deep grip on a slightly redesigned 50R, but still going to be the 50R essentially so. But Fujifilm is not, there's nobody out there, Fujifilm is not using any other sensors. It's got to be pre-existing, and it has to be one that's been around for a while that they could get on a deal. Fact number 2, why it's going the 50R body. The 50R body current GFX 50R is $3,500. It's been on sale basically forever, seems like anyway. $3,500, which is ridiculously cheap for medium format. The sensor in that alone costs Fujifilm, they say it's $2,000. I know they're not actually paying that much for it, but I mean it's at least $1,500 above, somewhere above $1,500. But the body itself, outside of the cost of the sensor, is not high. The cost for production, the 50R, if you remove the sensor, which is expensive, yes, obviously so, the cost of production on the GFX 50R is not high. It is a simple camera. So what you do is you take, and that even the IMX 461 monochrome medium format sensor, yeah, is expensive, but that means that they could come out with a monochromatic version of the 50R that would run, I really doubt it would be over $5,500, but it could be upwards of $6,000 because that sensor is probably costing Fujifilm somewhere on the order of $2,600, $2,500. I could be off $300 one way or the other. So given the fact that the cost of the camera production on the 50R is incredibly low, the only serious cost of production of an IBIS mech monochromatic Fujifilm GFX 50R. And that would be something completely unique. The only people out there, Fujifilm, I will remind you, I'm the #1 seller of GFX cameras. I field an enormous amount of tech support questions on the GFX 50S and 50R because I take it seriously. I love it to death. I'm a huge, huge, huge medium format fan. The Fujifilm cornered the market on medium format digital overnight. Boom. I told everybody Fujifilm would do that. I said they're not just making one camera when the 50S came out. And of course I was right. Now there's 3. Fujifilm would do something nobody else has done before. Now there is a Type 4.2 sensor, monochromatic medium format, but we're talking about a $60,000 to $80,000 phase 1. The autofocus on that thing is slower than a constipated turtle. It is not meant for travel. It's not meant for carrying around either. I mean, it costs way more than your car and your wife's car. That camera is a house cat camera. So Fujifilm would literally corner the market with zero competition. Listen up. Are you listening closely? A portable, yeah, GFX 50R, you know how small it is. Medium format, 102 megapixel, monochromatic with IBIS mech at under $5,500. I'm 95% certain that is what Fujifilm is going to do. It is not going to be an XTrans sensor. They're not going to come out with a, stick the same GFX 100 sensor, Bayer array, color sensor in the GFX. It's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. That would be cannibalizing the GFX 100, which is still a hot seller. If you think Fujifilm is going to stick the GFX 100 sensor in the GFX 50R and shoot themselves in the foot and cannibalize... Someone's trying to FaceTime me. I was wondering what that noise is. And cannibalize their own GFX 100, then you're smoking something that's not legal. Anyway, why do people try to FaceTime call me? It's just completely ridiculous. You think I'm going to pick up? No. So that's what's going to be. 95% certainty. That, by the way, that's the IMX 461 monochromatic sensor. Look it up. No camera company, whether it be the silliness of what Nikon's done recently, no camera company blasts a hole in their own foot and cannibalizes the hot-selling camera. Let's take our hot-selling GFX 100 and stick the same sensor in a much, 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 much cheaper GFX 50R. Well, that's not going to happen. However, it kind of is the same sensor, but it's monochrome. It's an IMX 461 monochrome. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and wait for it. Fujifilm. Bye. Do 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 do.